Thursday.
Woo,
Because
woo,
the
heads up, Wyatt.
the draw is coming out Thursday morning. So we get to do a post-draw Thursday podcast on the U.S. Open. So looking forward to that. But he'll be here momentarily. Talk primarily football with us. Paul Sporer on baseball a little later. Kelly and I are going full-out sports talk radio later on the show. We couldn't be more excited. You know what I'm talking about here, Kelly?
Oh, I do.
NFL quarterback power rankings. That's right. We're not too highbrow to stoop to this level. Top 10 quarterbacks, National Football League. We want to spend one segment of our lives living in the shoes of these sports talk people.
I mean, what's like the big, like, what would be a big difference, though, of us talking, you know, like you can compare these to MVP odds. It's usually the guys that are near the top anyways.
That's correct, but it's also in just, you know, an off season where it's an interminable off season, and this one feels like, you know, July lasted 60 days. It is a way of just sort of calibrating, and the beauty of it is always, I will let the hate wash over me as you will as well. Because
there's going to be some that people hate.
Everyone's going to be pissed about this, right?
Should I drop the early stats that I texted you?
What early stats?
Of just some of the trends from the two of ours.
Oh, okay, sure.
So Gil and I do have the same top 6 quarterbacks. Listed in different orders, though.
Okay. Oh.
And then after that, there are 6 quarterbacks that appear on one of our lists and not the others.
So it's mayhem after that.
Yeah, and I believe there's multiple Super Bowl winners that are left off there.
But the funny part about it is people will go nuts that both you and I, but I'll use mine. People will go nuts that I will have left off certain quarterbacks in the top 10, as inevitably it is for everybody. And the comedy of it is, oh, you're really that upset that I have them 11 or 12 or 13, right? Like. So we'll get into it. We'll defend our position. That's the thing. We'll defend our position.
That was the best part, though, when you texted me yesterday. You're like, how many are we doing? I'm like, just do 10 because it's funnier when we see who we left off.
My text was, are we doing all 32? That would have been funny. See what 32 was. Okay. We will get to all that. And let me start with the bad. Yesterday, after what was nothing but winning tennis bets since the beginning of the Olympics, both clay, then, and hardcourt. Yesterday, the old market correction. Oh, boy. If you bet tennis 350 days a year, this will happen. A big offer. And Katie Volynets, again, over 40 cents of CLV, had a match point. You know how this goes. There are just days where you know once the first one loses or the second one loses, you're like, oh, I get it. Anything that can happen here will go wrong. So we lost them all yesterday. 0-4 here on the show, 0-5 for subscribers. It was a bad day, just bad all around. We lost on the previous day on Badosa when she was 53 cents CLV. Who was it, Sherapan, that has those pictures of the CLV trash cans around Vegas? The trash cans that have CLV stenciled on them?
No, I haven't caught that. That's great.
It's C Las Vegas. I don't know what the C stands for, but they're all over town. Anyway, those are all those tickets
awesome.
go. So that was bad. And maybe it serves me right for playing Winston-Salem in Cleveland right before the U.S. Open, but, you know, that's how the cookie crumbled. I only have one today. I'm on Victoria Golubic. She is a Swiss player. She's plus 183 again. Put these out last night. VSiN.com/picks. Every host, every guest, every sport. It is in there. That happens to be my only one. Going up against number 1 seed in this tournament in Cleveland. Tennis in the land is what they call it. Going up against Beatriz Haddad Maia, Brazilian, who is not playing her best tennis this year. I don't think it should be anywhere near the plus 180 that you can still get it at. So that's the only tennis play. It's one of these two, Kelly, where you like, you know, when you anticipate a meeting and a collection, and you're expecting a pile, and then you have a day like that. That's a haircut, and you just get so angry about it.
Yeah.
It's brutal day. All right, baseball. Did a podcast with Mark Borchard yesterday. A Q3. Quarter 3 derivative show, Major League Baseball. We deep dive on first 5 inning stuff, on first inning stuff. I encourage you to go listen to that after the show at Beating the Book.
Great stuff as always.
Mark is outstanding.
You guys are both awesome talking baseball. I think I love when you do those because it's the. Like I said this early in the year, but it applies even now. It's if you've missed anything too, it's such a great catch-up vehicle.
It's a catch-up vehicle. It's not about also the narrative. It's about what is predictive here moving forward. And he has historical umpire numbers. So again, like, you know, you may have a total position on a baseball game, but if a certain umpire is back there, it should probably take you off if that umpire is historically and matching with this year's sort of performance behind home plate calling balls and strikes. So it's great. But it occurred to me as I was doing that podcast, and he had an appearance on the show yesterday, and we talked baseball with others, that maybe we should get into what is the single best bet? What do I believe is the single best bet that exists right now this morning for the rest of the season? And again, we're just under a quarter of the season left, so 30-some games for everybody. These are the best records in baseball right now. Jeff Passan highlighted this the other day. We touched on it. These are the top 10 teams in baseball. There happen to be 5 in the AL. There happen to be 5 in the NL. They are separated by 4 games in the standings, if you would put them all in the same standings, right? The Phillies have the best, 73 and 51, and then it is just like stair steps down, half steps all the way down to the D-backs at 70 and 56. A total of 4 games separate those 10 teams. So if we go to the best record in baseball, I mentioned that I bet the Diamondbacks at 40-1 the other day. The second column here for those watching, those are the current odds to have the best record in baseball. Those are not World Series odds as we've listed. Those are the best record in baseball odds. You can get the Diamondbacks much longer than I got them at. They're at 75-1, not 40-1. But as you look up and down that, you see that the Dodgers are the short shot to have the best record, plus 160. The Yankees are next, plus 255. And that correlates with the remaining strength of schedule. What you see on the far right is the aggregate win percentage of their remaining opponents. So the lower, the easier, in other words. And the Dodgers do have, of these 10 teams, the easiest remaining schedule. Aggregate win percentage of remaining opponents, 491. The Yankees, second easiest, 493. By the way, the Royals of these 10 teams have the hardest remaining schedule. 530 is the aggregate win percentage of their remaining opponents collectively. So is there a bet here beyond, like what I said the other day, where I'm backing the Diamondbacks? I've got the Diamondbacks not only for this, I've got them for number 1 seed. I've got them to face the Royals at 400-1 in the World Series. And the truth is, because of the strength of schedule and because of the odds, yeah, I mean, could I say to you, hey, I think the Diamondbacks at 75-1 is still a great bet? Sure. Could I say, could you make a case for the Padres, by the way, at 35-1, who are only 3 games behind the Phillies for the best record, only 2 in the win column, if you will, at 35-1 with a remaining strength of schedule of 499? Sure, I could, but it's not like I say it with any degree of huge conviction. So the question is, okay, if not this market, then maybe there is something derivative, or maybe there is something, that is a cousin of this, that there is. And so yesterday we touched upon seeding. By the way, those odds were courtesy of DraftKings. DraftKings also has seeding. And number 1, number 2, all the way down to number 6 seeds in both the American League and the National League. And there, Kelly, is where I believe you find the finest bet that remains. And so you say, okay, well, what is that? The first place you should look would be, okay, the American League. You've got, what seeding is kind of like looks clearer than others. Well, the Astros to be the number 3 seed does, but it is reflected in the price, right? They are, minus 285 or something like that?
Minus 280 right now.
Minus 280 to be the number 3 seed. So there's no value there but that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a possibility of, okay, what is a clear picture on a seed? The problem with the number 1 seeds is there's too much of a logjam in the American League on that, right? Orioles, Yankees, Guardians, they're all too bunched together, and the prices are
Yankees minus 110, O's plus 270, Guardians 4-1.
And I don't feel like there's enough value there. Also, based on the schedules we just talked about, the Yankees have the easiest one of the bunch. The Orioles equally easy, by the way. So it's really a coin flip. I don't know that I could back a bet there. However, in the National League number 1 seed, I do believe there is a bet, and that, sir, is on a team that is only 1 game out of the number 1 seed, and they have the 3rd easiest schedule, well, the 4th, because there's a tie, the 4th easiest schedule remaining on that board, and that is the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers, to get the number 1 seed, are plus 550. Plus 550 for a team that is only 1 game behind the Phillies for the number 1 seed currently. They have a 499 remaining strength of schedule. Again, aggregate win percentage of their remaining opponents, 499. Again, 4th easiest on the board of the ones we mentioned. And they're still plus 550. That's probably the best current bet that I see. Also, by the way, for other seeds in the wild cards, 4s and 5s, too crowded in the American League to determine who's going to end up with a specific seed, too crowded in the National League. So I do think that's the play.
Well, it sounds like the AL ones you wouldn't suggest playing at all, right?
No, at all.
Because the 2 seed even applies to the 1 seed situation,
that's what I mean.
right? The 1 seed's too jumbled. Someone's going to fall to the 2 seed.
And to those who ask, what about a 6 seed in the National League? Still also 2. The Braves are priced as the favorite, as they should be, even though the Mets are only a game and a half behind, Giants 3.5 behind. So to me, if you had to play one bet in either of these markets, it is the Brewers at plus 550, because I think for a team that's only 1 game out here and has a relatively easy schedule, I mean, could you make a case about the Padres too? You could, I suppose.
I mean, wouldn't you sprinkle that a little on the 11-1 for best regular season record?
Talk about with the Brewers?
Yeah, if you were going to bet that.
Yeah, you could. But again, I just, plus 550, not having to deal with all the teams in the American League.
Right.
I kind of like it a little better. But anyway, to the question of what's the best bet I think that's on the board right at this moment, that's it. We'll talk to Drew Dinsick on the NFL on the other side, including interesting kickoff rule information. That's next.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Back on a numbers game live from Bar Canada here at the D in downtown Las Vegas. Gil Alexander, Kelly Bidlin. Before we get to Drew Dinsick is kindly standing by to talk football and tennis with us. We brought this up yesterday on the show, or I did anyway. We were talking to Samich, and it was like the third guy on the Royals. And by the way, all the Royals bets hit, so we sort of broke that superstition. But he also went under on Illinois, and I made the comment, I'm like, what have been our most common bets this summer? And that was specifically with college football, and I think the under on Texas, the Texas season win total has been by far the most common, but Illinois under was common too. And so it occurred to me yesterday, I was like, we should probably throw this out to everybody, tweet us at Beating the Book. NFL primarily, let's do this on, but if you have college ones as well, feel free to chime in. And the question is simply, what are the most common bets, consensus bets, season-long bets that you've heard this summer, either on this show, on other shows, whatever, that you simply can't get behind? You hear them over and over again. You hear this consensus opinion, and you're like, I do not know what people are talking about when they get into this. Let me give you some examples just to sort of give you an idea of some of the more common ones that I think that we've heard. We mentioned Steelers under. You and I raise our hands on that.
That's still the number one for me.
Steelers under on season wins. Jared Goff MVP. Multiple people have had that. Eagles winning the NFC East. Chargers going over their season win total. And I'll throw out the Falcons winning the NFC South.
Oh, I don't think those last 3 even compare
to the first 2.
Yeah. NFL-wise, I don't think those last 3 even compare.
Yeah. That's a different question than, what is your outlying opinion? What's the one that you've heard the most from people where you're like, good God, if I hear one more person, because you were even saying, who was it you were doing the show with who had a Steelers over this weekend?
Yeah, Joe Sorello. Yeah.
I wanted to
give him a standing ovation just because he's the first person I heard that had a Steelers over ticket this year.
We bring in Drew Dinsick, everybody. He is the co-host of not one but 2 podcasts, The Deep Dive with Andy Molitor, and of course, NBC Sports Bet the Edge, which he does with Jay Croucher. And there is a laughing, a giggling Drew Dinsick at @whale_capper, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. Drew, I'll just start by throwing the same thing out at you. What's the most common one you've heard, again, anecdotally, where you're just like, come on with this?
The reason I'm laughing is, if you had said, what are you the most off market on? It's the Steelers. I'm not even close to this being an average team. I will take a bath this year if the Steelers get to 500. I will tell you that.
I won't be alone.
We all will. Yeah.
This offense stinks. And I do not have anywhere close to a market rating on the Steelers. So just for context, right now, Steelers market rating, if you go with the look aheads, Impredictable, fine resource for this because it's not controversial. I do my own market ratings, and I'm not that far off Impredictable. It has Pittsburgh just under a neutral team, right? And I have Pittsburgh 3.5 points worse than an average team. And I think the offense is in the bottom 5. I think the defense, I think the defense is top 4, but it's certainly not number 1 or close enough to number 1 to elevate the whole team expectation. And I think I've taken my opinion to market mostly through trying to bet the kind of the true crazy unbelievable outlier stuff like fewest wins. Like it's not hard for me to kind of squint, particularly with the way their schedule ends. If things are not great with Art Smith in the offense in the early going here, and they drop some games that are the easy part of their schedule, like could this be a 2-win team? Surely. Like it does not have to me at least, the upside that the market is seeing in terms of kind of making them an average team. And I know it's foolish to go over and over and over against the great Mike Tomlin, who is a leader of men and gets the most out of these guys and
leader
and all
of
that.
men.
And
yes.
And I forgot. Like I'm flying in the face of voodoo here, and I know that, but I'm not seeing a team that is going to be able to score consistently more than 13 points on offense, and that's concerning if you're if you have any type of slippage on your defense, because pass rush amazing, TJ Watt amazing, their linebacking core solid, front seven in general solid. There's coverage question marks about this team. I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick does like kind of elevate everybody, I guess, but outside of Joey Porter Jr., I have issues with QB, CB2 and 3 here. And the offensive line did not come together. The one bright spot that was a little bit of hope that you could have Broderick Jones in year 2 make a huge step forward and anchor the left side of that line. That experiment is being challenged pretty obviously on tape against backups. I'm really not sure what exactly it is that turns this season around. And it seems like they're going to start with Russell Wilson. And if he's running the check down, very conservative Art Smith type of stuff, and now Jaylen Warren, one of your 2 key backs is going to be questionable, if not out week 1 because of the hamstring injury he sustained. Like, oh, great. Like, when Najee Harris has been his most effective? When Warren has been pushing him for reps and where they've been able to balance, right? When else they've been most effective? When they've had an offensive line that can do, even a modicum of run blocking. And, all of those things to me look up in the air right now. So, I have not heard a ton of Steelers under the way that you guys have. Oh. And I'm not really interested in laying minus 160 on a season-long bet anyway. So give me the kind of the more absurd, which is that this doesn't just go poorly. This goes like monumentally poorly, and the Steelers are picking their quarterback of the future at the top of next year's draft.
20-1 for fewest wins. I remember you and I commented on that one, and
we flirted with
it. And
then
also last winless team where they are 45-1 in that market.
We flirted with that too.
They would have to run real bad to start, but
they would have to run real bad.
It's a gauntlet at the end. It's not so easy at the top either. Drew, that is by far, I think, on our end the most, and Kelly and I are front and center with it. We are with you on this completely. This, by the way, your entire analysis before you got to see how bad Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were in the preseason also, like just to corroborate everything. And I even went as far as to say I think when Fez was on with us one time, I think we put this out on social too, which is like sometimes with sports betting, like it's cool to be contrarian, right? We're all trying to have a contrarian opinion from time to time. And then sometimes something stares you in the face every once in a while where I think everybody's right about it. And this is that. But by the way, you have skillfully avoided the initial question, which is what have you heard out there commonly, at least in your sphere, that you're like, I still don't get that?
Well, I agreed with the final one you mentioned, which was people pretty much have crowned the Falcons as division winners, and I'm not there. I'm not even close. Like, this Falcons team looks highly suspect to me, and I don't want to conspiracy tinfoil hat this because I have no information, but like the idea that they're not even playing Penix in the preseason.
What are they doing?
Like, okay, if that's the plan, because you really don't want to get him hurt, like, okay, I suppose, but like that makes all of their offseason moves even more confusing. The kind of desperate, Justin Simmons is a good player. by my numbers. I'm expecting him to be a contributor. Matthew Judon is a good player by my numbers, expecting him to be a contributor. This is awfully late in the cycle to look at your defense and realize, oh, wait, we need talented players on this unit. We better go get some guys, right? Like, good for you for identifying that, but like, everyone else has been looking at your depth chart for the entire offseason saying, what is going on with this defense? And now you're finally, catching up to that. And then in the Penix Cousins thing is interesting to me because like, I have not seen a ton of snaps of Kirk Cousins this offseason. Have you?
No.
Like, he looks good. He's ready to go week 1. Like, he's playing against the Steelers and TJ Watt, who we before mentioned. Like, this is a non-trivial pass rush that he's going to have some sort of mobility to avoid. And I have not seen him even close to, kind of proving that he's ready to go. So if he just wakes up and rolls out of bed and he's the guy, great. But, his Achilles injury was more significant than Aaron Rodgers because it was his plant leg and it happened later in the season. These are the facts. And if he just comes out week 1 and he's throwing fireballs, then good for him. But I need to see that to believe it. And if the offense is not like truly, clearly, obviously top 10, their schedule is easy. I will admit that. And I think that's why some people are just kind of running numbers and running sims and being like, oh, wow, yeah, this team consistently getting into the 9, 10, 11 win range just because of the weakness of their schedule. But like, if that offense is not, consistently putting up high 20s, low 30s, like their defense is going to lose them some games, and they're going to have the door open for the Bucs, I think, in the South. And
I was going to ask.
So
the
yeah,
Bucs is the answer.
As far as consensus opinions go, the idea that there's margin between the Falcons and the Bucs, I disagree with, and the idea that the Falcons are going to waltz away with the South, I disagree with.
As a solid answer to that question. The Achilles thing is interesting. I talked to Will on his podcast, should have been more the other week, as someone who's had 2 Achilles ruptures. I think now that they have had an offseason, talking both Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, and I was the guy railing against these doctors who were like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers could absolutely come back this year, meaning last year. I do think now with an offseason, if they are to fail, it won't be because of that, even despite their age. I think they'll be okay with that. More NFL, I want to talk to Drew about the kickoff and a tennis story that I can't believe. Next.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Back on a numbers game, live from Bar Canada, the Barrage, here at Bar Canada, the D, downtown Las Vegas. Gil Alexander, Kelly Bidlin, and Drew Dinsick at Whale_Capper, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line, joins us, co-host of the Deep Dive and NBC Sports Bet the Edge podcast. And I just want to start by saying I am such a rude human being because Drew is not only doing this show, he's agreed to do the U.S. Open podcast on Thursday after the show. So he's just like, he's always there for me. And then the poor guy has COVID, and I failed to mention that he's playing hurt here. You are convinced you got COVID at Bet Bash, yes?
Oh, yeah, surely. I mean, the timing was, it could have been in the airport, who the heck knows, but it was definitely traveling to Las Vegas and back because, within like 2 days, it was like, oh, wait a second, what's that scratchy feeling in the back of my throat? Oh, yeah, this is familiar, yeah. And just for the record, COVID got me. It's in trouble here. It has no hope. It's one of the kind of sad truths of our time now. Like, if you travel it in the summer, like, you're gonna get it.
It should be pointed out that Drew and COVID have a fascinating history. When the pandemic, when the pandemic actually happened in 2020, MIT Sloan Sports Conference happened as it always does, and end February, beginning March. So right before the world ended, basically in 2020. Everybody at that conference on the gambler side, every sports bettor, got COVID except for this dude right here. And you are convinced, Drew, because we thought Drew was like, oh my God, what's this guy must be this incredible human being. But what is your theory as to why you didn't get it? Because
I had already had it.
Before we even knew what it was called.
I had just gotten over it.
Yeah.
Actually kind of a funny, weird coincidental story, I guess, is the last 3 times I've put on a black tie, I've gotten COVID. It was January 2020. I went to a black tie in downtown LA. There were some people we were hanging out with, ironically, some who had traveled, just gotten back from China, mainland China, like visiting family and stuff around, Christmas, New Year's, and they were feeling sick, and I was like, oh man, that's a bummer. And then sure enough, like that was the sickest I ever got in my life, and it was like, oh, COVID's not in the United States. It was very much in the United States, and I'm very sure that I had it at that time. And so yeah, I didn't get it at Sloan when everyone else did. But then yeah, sure, the second time I got it, same sort of deal. Like, hey, celebrating COVID's over. They're having a big industry black tie thing. I show up and bang. COVID number 2.
That suit does it every time.
Three for three every time. Yeah,
well,
I don't know what it is.
You spread it in Hawaii a couple times too, right?
He has spread it in Hawaii.
Yeah. Taking it to Hawaii with me after I got it at a black tie in LA. That was fun.
Brutal. All right, let's do rapid fire on all this stuff.
It's not funny, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Thank you for being here, despite being under the weather, as they say. So, or under the virus. Okay, real quick now. Off air, we said, give me the teams in the NFL that you are above market on and the ones that you are below market on.
Sure. So market ratings comparisons, just like generically, how far off am I like ranking wise? And because power number wise, there's some huge differences. For me, I'm at Seattle like +2.5, markets at like -1.5. So Seattle is at the top of my list of teams that I have, that I'm very bullish on right now. The other one that is like relatively new, Houston right now is ranked 11th in overall in terms of power rating with just under 2 by Unpredictable. I am closer to 6. I think this Houston team is very, very legit. I am kind of at this point now stacking some Houston like superlative type of awards and kind of number 1 seed type of opinions right now, because this is kind of the perfect storm here. I don't know what else you needed to see from them in the offseason that they're going to be able to start the season hot with everybody has maintained perfect health throughout this process. You have a quarterback and a wide receiver room that is so in sync that it has perfect chemistry that they are going to hit the ground running, in my opinion. And you have a defense led, that anchored by Danielle Hunter, who looks like a defensive player of the year candidate, pretty obviously. And it's like, this is all of a sudden, this is going to be a very good team right out of the gate, and their schedule is not especially hard to start out either. So most of their kind of games that would spook you as far as getting a 1 seed or winning a division come later in the season, like week 15, 16, 17, Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens. Like, yeah, that's a tough stretch in a vacuum, but who the heck knows if the Dolphins or the Ravens are going to be any good by the time we get to December. And then, I think you kind of look at the beginning here where number 1, I bet them number 1 week 1 at the Colts. I think that number should be past 3, and you can still get it under 3 right now. And then you go on a nice little stretch against the Bears, Vikings, Jags, where, starting out 4-0 here, considering that you've gotten all of your offense on the field and getting good reps together in the preseason, feels very realistic to me. So I think CJ Stroud and the Texans and DeMeco Ryans and Danielle Hunter, everybody that you want to see performing well and staying healthy is checking all of those boxes right now. So this team is probably, in my opinion, going to take a leap from outside the top 10 by market rating to top 5. And so the 2 biggest differences, we've talked about Seattle. Mike McDonald is the angle there. And then Houston, I think, is going to be absolutely in the mix for an AFC, and excited to see what those 2 teams look like.
And then lower than market, you have?
Lower than market is Pittsburgh, who we just talked about. I think they're a bottom 6 team. I think they very well could have the fewest wins. And then I'm lower on Chicago. This might be just a little bit of not buying into Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams hitting the ground and lighting the world on fire out of the gate. Some questions a bit about that Chicago front 7. Besides, I think their secondary is very good, but a little bit worried about how they're generating pass rush besides Montez Sweat. A lot of questions about the health of the offensive line for Chicago. Once they get into real game action, they could find themselves in a little bit of a tough spot here, as they've had very, very unlucky health-wise in the trenches really this whole process. So Chicago's low for me. And then lastly, Baltimore. I'm still high on Baltimore. They're a top 10 team for me, but the market consistently kind of, depending on who you ask, like they're squarely the 3rd best team right now. I think they're the 3rd shortest in terms of future price after KC and San Francisco. They're clearly the second choice in the AFC, and that's not what I see when I look at this team and I look at this roster. I have questions about their offensive line. I have questions about changing defensive coordinators. Honestly, if I'm high on Mike Macdonald in Seattle, then it comes to logic that I would be low on Baltimore's defense this year as we, kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit. I know it's somebody who is within his tree, so it shouldn't be lots of changes. And I know that ultimately the personnel hasn't changed that much. Roquan Smith is still amazing. Kyle Hamilton is still amazing. But, if you take a little bit of heat off your Baltimore D rating and you still have them as a top 5, but not a threat for top 1, and then you take some heat off of the offense with the turnover at the offensive line, I'm coming in more like around a +5 for Baltimore, which would put them at 7th best team in the NFL for me. And honestly, I have almost a 2-point margin between KC and Baltimore, which means opening night, I got a big old bet on KC. I think you can still get -2.5 at around -110 if you shop around, and I think that closes 3. It may close 3 juicy if we're being honest, because I think KC to me again looks like they're ready to start the season hot, as opposed to years past where they have played no one in the preseason and they haven't really shown you anything. It does feel like they're going to be a little bit more engaged in the first quarter of the season this year with how much we've seen them kind of trying to get the offense on the right foot to start the season. And I think in general, people are a little low on the skill position group, which looks to be a lot better than last year.
All right, Drew on Kansas City Week 1. Drew, will you accept a question from a Stephen Fezzik? He asked via text. He says, Drew likes select overs NFL Week 1. I am scared blankless to play any overs right now after every single preseason game went under. We have to put some stock in it, but maybe not that much. What are his thoughts?
I mean, it's too late for me to back out now. I'm in pretty good shape on these, though. Like the ones I picked, by the way, I'm on 48.5 for Jags Dolphins. I think that should start with a 5. I'm on Giants Vikings. I don't feel great about that one with the way that the Giants quarterback situation is unfolding, but again, too late here. I'm on over 48 for Buffalo Cardinals. I would take that one back if I could, now that we're starting to get a little bit of I still think that's 2 bad defenses, really, which is why that one is kind of intriguing to me, with 2 good quarterbacks, one great, one good quarterback, and 2 bad defenses potentially. I think over 48 it's fine there, but I don't love it as much. Commanders Tampa Bay that one's solid. I think both of these teams could get into the high 20s in that game, maybe even low 30s, and that's sitting at 42. That to me is not correct. And then Titans Bears is on the board for me as well at 43.5, mostly because I think the Titans defense is overrated coming into this. Both defenses I think are overrated coming into the season. That should be on the north side of 44. So a little bit. I'm nervous too. Like I don't love how little you're getting out of these offenses in the preseason, but you're seeing a lot of vanilla scheme and concept, and so once they start calling the good plays, hopefully it'll turn.
Are you skipping week 3 of the preseason entirely?
I haven't bet anything week 3, and I don't think I will.
I don't think I will either. Yeah. Drew Dinsick, everybody. Feel better, Drew. And for God's sakes, I apologize for not saying that earlier. Drew Dinsick, COVID machine is what he is. Thank you, Drew. At Whale _Capper. We'll come back. NFL quarterback rankings and this kickoff information. That's pretty interesting next.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
If you missed episode 1 of Circa Survivor, the quest for $9.2 million, you can watch it now at VSiN.com. 5-part docuseries taking you inside the high-stakes world of the annual Circa Survivor contest. Follow the contestants as they make all or nothing picks over the 2023 NFL season and go behind the scenes of the world's largest legal betting contest. Several VSiN hosts make appearances along the way to offer their advice. You can watch episodes 2 through 5 next week, Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on VSiN.com and YouTube TV, as well as a live broadcast on X. Go to VSiN.com/Survivor for details or to watch episode 1. We got a tweet about that. Let me read that one first as we get through the tweets. This one is from The numbers guys. Watching part 1 of the Survivor doc yesterday, I never realized how good-looking the majority of sports gamblers are. I'm going to say that's sarcastic. Let's see here. This is from...
I don't know if it's sarcastic or did we actually pick, did the production company purposely pick?
Yeah. I took it as sarcastic. Let's see. Cheap Prop Bets 21. Oh, this is in response. I reposted our thing about which team above minus 150 to make the playoffs will actually miss. I had the Bills. You had the Dolphins. Graham, my answer is the Bills. This is from Cheap Prop Bets 21. He said Dallas already made a bet for them to miss the playoffs at plus 205. Sia will be on the show tomorrow. Sia Najad. He says he's on fading the Bills this year as well. He'll be on the show tomorrow to discuss some NFL futures and PGA picks. He's got some sneaky teams in the AFC who he think can make a lot of noise this year, he says. Answer that question. Dolphins, Dallas, and Baltimore. Bye-bye.
I'm guessing that's a separate Sia tweet that you just read?
From
Sia Najad? No, that was a separate Sia Najad tweet?
No, Sia just is literally tweeting us what he's going to talk about on the show tomorrow.
Thanks, Sia.
Plus_money. He's using Twitter as a promo for what he's going to do on the show. Plus_money says he thinks Dolphins, Dallas, Baltimore. Bye-bye. Greg Jones, who was part of the Survivor Chop last year, he says Packers. Love could easily regress. Talk about Jordan Love.
There's a couple of those I kind of want to talk about.
Circa Survivor Champion 23. Great first episode. Favorite part was Crack and Gil talking about how difficult of a contest it really is.
Yeah, that was my favorite part, too.
Just to follow VSiN says, how dare anyone say Green Bay, but I know it's not shocking. Cowboys seem like the best bet up there if they were in any other division. Falcons. Michael Harrison, I honestly feel like things are just not going to go right for the Niners. I'd take a shot at them missing. Terry Elkins got the 2020 sports betting book, Think Like a Pro, from Logan Fields. He says Kelly gave up too quickly.
Yeah. That statement could apply to a lot of things in my life. Yep.
This gets to Derby Day Brewers #1 seed plus 950 on FanDuel.
Ooh,
that's a nice price.
Yeah, shop around. We mentioned that Steelers bet too. I saw someone tweet in.
And DePriest, I like the Ravens to miss. He said Sal this morning made some great points. I assume he means Pal Antonio. Let's see. Manny Davison, are Steelers unders an auto bet this season then if they can't score 2 touchdowns in a game and are going to be a top 5 defense? Well, I've bet them under and alternate under.
I don't like. This one's so tough. Like, we've laid it out. We've talked about it a ton. I've also bet it like 3 years in a row though, and been burnt by it every single year. So
Chance Copper.
Jump on board with me though. I'll take all the fellow bettors I can get.
Survivor episode 1 was absolutely fantastic. I'm so jacked up for Survivor now. Maybe more than the sushi spot. 3 days till sushi, everybody. I spent hours last night looking at schedules. I think I'm going to use 2 on the Bills week 1. What say you? I have not gotten to Survivor week 1 yet. I have not gotten.
Yeah, I haven't really either. I did make some week 1 bets though yesterday.
What'd you bet?
I laid 2.5 with the Falcons against the Steelers. Those are the 2.5s were drying up, so those wanted to get ahead of that. And then also, I did tag along. I've heard Drew. I've heard a couple people bring it up. The Dolphins Jags over. I had 49. I know the 48.5's gone. 49 not the best, but the 49s are quickly disappearing too. And it's getting closer, like Drew said, 49.5, and then the 50s. And then I just joined him on Chiefs 2.5 too. Laid that. I was kind of looking at that already. But first game of the year, yeah. Drew pushed me over the edge. Was already leaning that way, but 2.5s are kind of moving. Couple comments on the teams. I don't know if that point with the Packers is being discussed enough. Like, I want to love Jordan Love, and I think he's really good, but, yeah, it's a small sample size that it feels like a lot of people are really buying into.
It is, but go back a year ago, I was the one saying to everybody, because everybody thought Jordan Love sucked, right? And I'm like, and how many times did I say, nope, when you hold a clipboard under the same system for years, you tend to actually be good when you come out of that. Because we don't have that in modern day, right? Yep. And I went through the whole thing about all the skins quarterbacks, right? Mark Rippon, Trent Green, Stan Humphries, all these guys that nobody thought were going to be any good. But you sit there with a clipboard for years, back then, you end up good. And that's what happened with Jordan Love. So maybe he is exactly that.
I think he is.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying I don't know that we know based off of what we've seen so far.
And by the way,
the Ravens one's interesting.
Much of that will be incorporated into our quarterback rankings coming up as well.
Yes, it will.
Here's the thing about the Ravens, though, I have to tell you. They are solid at number 3 running back. I just want to tell you that. Shout out to O if he makes the team.
I mean, you know me, like I am not the biggest Lamar Jackson guy, but even I'd be a little shocked if the Ravens fall that far this year.
Well, Drew said, he goes, I just don't have him third best. I have him seventh best. So let's not go crazy, right?
Yeah, but that's
and the thing is,
that's significant to me though for when we're talking about a team that was that good last year.
It is, but like people who say they're going to miss the playoffs, it might happen. But I'm going to let you guys bet that because I'm not going against that organization.
That's kind of my point. I'm not doing that either.
The one other interesting thing about the Fezzik question to Drew about the totals and stuff, obviously the massive unders here in the first 2 weeks of preseason, as we documented yesterday. The NFL put in this new kickoff rule this year, obviously. And the point was, after all of these years of trying to legislate the kickoff out, the NFL is really skittish about points, the point environment lessening. Obviously, chicks like the long ball was the old Glavin Maddox commercials.
Chicks dig the long ball.
Chicks dig the long ball. What did I say? Like? Yeah, chicks dig the. Of course they did say it. Chicks dig the long ball. So the NFL is really worried about the scoring environment coming down, and they were legislating the kickoff out of it under the guise of we want player safety. Well, they decided because of the scoring environment coming down and their fear of it going even lower with bad quarterback play and what else? What else they could possibly give as a reason for it. So the new rule was designed to raise the rate of return and the threat of big plays after years of increasing touchbacks. So the average starting position through 2 weekends of exhibition games, Kelly, is now the 28.3-yard line. That's according to the NFL, up 4.4 yards from this point last season. But now here's by the way, through 2 weeks of the preseason, the unders are 26-6, as we talked about. So 4.4 yards forward, up to the 28.3-yard line. But here's the deal. This has, because the 28.3-yard line is so close to the 30, which is where you start on a touchback anyway, that now it appears there's some talk that teams are now just going to blanket kick it out, and we're just going to start at the 30 every time now. Because if the average is 28.3, why risk a big play?
Yeah.
So there's that. And by the way, next year they're considering making it a 35-yard line to either, I don't know if it's to prevent the touchback, the sort of de facto touchback, to make it a exciting play, and to also then increase scoring because he shortens the field kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's pretty interesting that 4.4 yards has gotten to them, has achieved what they were looking for, but now it's so close to the 30, now they just might kick it through the end zone anyway.
All right, so two things. I think that I'm very interested to see week one what actually the kickoffs are going to look like. Because if it was very different from what we've seen in the preseason, I won't be shocked by that.
Wouldn't be the first time we saw anything in the preseason, like referees being told to call something, officials being told to call something, and all of a sudden it disappears week one.
I also wouldn't be surprised, though, if it looks basically the same. And like you said, most teams are just like, we're just going to boot out back the end zone, and the NFL has to reevaluate this rule. Because I do think the biggest point was to try to make the kickoffs a thing again, right? And if it's going to continue that way, then that's a problem. The biggest question I have for someone, and this is probably more for a Steve Fezzik or something like that, but is this the over 4 yards worth of starting field position above from what we've seen a year ago? Is this more of the proof is kind of proven out for what the handicap was on the overs, and it just hasn't gotten there the rest of the way, and still going to be looking that way, looking overs heading into week one? Or is it, no, it's like you're saying, it's still close to the 30, and that's just where teams are going to start, and the unders are what they are? I don't know if that all made sense.
No, I think the answer to your broad question, I don't know if I understood it exactly, but the answer is anybody who thinks so surely that they know something, right? Like if Fez has a huge brain. He was an actuary. The man knows stuff, right? But, he came in here, he's like, yes, it will increase scoring 1.7 points, or whatever he said.
Yeah.
Like he was so sure about it. Yeah. And I just think you can't be, right? You can't be until we all see this play out. Right now it looks like just sort of a glorified running play, right? Where like teams are getting a slightly larger head start on a running play. We will not know the answer to any of these questions until a few weeks are played out. And as far as the betting market is concerned, they always lag in adjustment. So there could be opportunities, but all of our best theories might be bunk.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be way ahead of our skis on this. Time will tell. That's all we can tell at this point. We'll come back. Tennis next.
Don't bet college football this season without VSiN's College Football Betting Guide.